It's time. The writer was alone in the room. He sat in his favorite chair by the fireplace, smoking a cigar and dispassionately drinking a glass of wine. The hissing of the gas lamps was all but drowned out by the ticking of the clock that echoed in the room with a near-maddening rhythm. He watched the reflection of the firelight dance in his wineglass, and he sighed. So, this is what it feels like to sell one's soul, he thought to himself as he casually sipped from his glass. It wasn't quite 11:30 when the lights of the room dimmed, if only for the briefest of moments. The flames in the fireplace erupted, and a chill permeated the room. The writer knew he was no longer alone. He tensed up in his seat and tried in vain not to shiver. He took another drink of wine to calm his failing nerves. A typescript landed with a heavy thud on the table next to the 54-year-old writer.
"Very amusing,"
said a voice from behind with a strange intonation. So you approve of this draft? He did not attempt to look at his visitor. His eyes gravitated towards his glass of wine. He swirled the remainder of its contents gently and listened as footsteps moved around the spot where he sat. Footsteps that were almost in perfect unison with the ticking of the clock. Though he tried not to look, he could see the tall, dark figure of the man before him help himself to a nearby seat.
"You have omitted enough information, and added plenty of funny characters to distract your readers. I might say I am satisfied."
The writer placed his cigar down and refilled his glass. Feigning politeness, he held the bottle out towards his guest. The man extended his bony hand, palm facing forward, in refusal. And Florence? Blood-red lips stretched into a predatory smile beneath the man's iron-grey mustache.
She's quite safe.
If there are no further changes to your manuscript, she'll be returned as sound as when you last laid eyes upon her, just as we agreed. The author placed his wine next to the typescript on the table. He no longer had a taste for it. He sat silently for a long while and stroked his beard involuntarily, lost in thought. Why me? Why a work of fiction with smatterings of truth? He said at last. His eyes reflected equal parts rage and fear.
Need I remind you that it was you who began to peer into the dark places that no mortal man should? You who once greedily consumed folklore and superstitions as hungrily as the most ravenous of wolves might devour its prey. You learned much in your travels, enough to be a threat, even to me. Or, with the proper persuasion, a great aid to my cause. The world will know me, but they will not believe. They will fear me, yet not guard against me. What more could I ask?
The lean figure stood from his seat, walked over to where his host sat, and placed his fingers on the typescript.
I must be on my way, young man. But before I leave, if I may offer one other suggestion, your title, The Undead, is rather lackluster.
He smiled, and his sharp white teeth glistened in the firelight.
Perhaps it is just vanity on my part, but I believe you should call it simply Dracula.
Without waiting for a rejoinder, the figure vanished from the room.
Let us delve into the chilling depths of this rather sinister tale about an old friend. Picture, if you will, the scene. A solitary writer, ensconced in his study, surrounded by the flickering flames of a fireplace and the ominous ticking of a clock. With every sip of wine, every puff of his cigar, he sinks deeper into a world of darkness and intrigue, oblivious to the looming presence that lurks just beyond his perception. The very air seems thick with impending doom. And then, like a whisper from the shadows, the visitor arrives. A mysterious figure whose very presence sends shivers down the spine. His cryptic words drip with menace, revealing a pact forged in the darkest recesses of the human soul. As he inspects the writer's manuscript with an air of disdain, we are drawn into a web of deception and desperation. And yet, it is not merely the revelation of the visitor's true nature that sends a shiver down the spine, but the implications of his final suggestion. Before he vanishes into the ether, leaving behind naught but a whisper on the wind, he bestows upon our writer a title that will echo through the annals of literary history: Dracula. Speaking of our resident in room 1462, he did always love attention in his not-quite-dead state, but as long as I've known him, the good Count does provide excellent company. As long as his dietary needs are fulfilled, of course. Addendum. Maybe those would-be investigators can be added to the barrels. Bread for the undead.